There's nothing sweeter than pony salt in the afternoon. You see, why are all these ponies today saying that they are...
I am having a very bad day. I am in no mood. Today is one of the worst days that I've had in a long time.
Yes, the PlayStation community, they are disappointed at this point in time. Now, you might be asking, why are these ponies and jabronis disappointed today? Well, let's just say that everything that they were saying concerning the PlayStation 5 Pro were wrong. Yes, it was wrong. You see, prior to the PlayStation 5 Pro coming out, these ponies believed that this console was 33 teraflops. Yes, they believed that the flip-flops in the PlayStation 5 Pro was some of the strongest in the gaming community.
33.5 teraflops. This is insane.
There were even some radical cokeheads who believed that the PlayStation 5 Pro was 67 teraflops. They said it was more powerful than a 4090 Ti or 4090.
Telling you that this thing was going to cost $700, and we told you and told you and told you. And instead of you all just saving your money, like we told you, you were like, I'll never do it. And guess what? This thing's more powerful than a 4090. It is. A friend of mine, he called me. He has a 4090. He was like, look, I struggle with this. You know, he said he's struggling with it because he's seen that this thing do things that the 4090 can't do. It's not going to do this. It's going to struggle.
And they said, you know what? Sony never came out with official specs for the PlayStation 5 Pro. Well, it just so happened that Mark Cerny, yes, the PlayStation, prodigy, according to these ponies, came out and basically let these ponies know that they are not only high on their own supply, but they are sniffing glue.
One thing I'd like to clear up is the erroneous 33.5 teraflop number that's been circulating for PS5 Pro. That number isn't anywhere in our developer docs. It comes from a misunderstanding by someone commenting on leaked PS5 Pro technical information. Part of the confusion comes from RDNA 3 architectures having double the flops of RDNA 2 architectures. Now, to quote Digital Foundry on this topic, it's a nice little bonus to have twice the flops, but it doesn't do anything like double real-world performance. So there's a certain amount of flopflation going on here.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Yes, Mark Cerny himself is saying that these ponies, they are on crack. 67 teraflops. These guys fail to take into consideration the flopflation, according to Mark Cerny. He coined that term, flopflation. But what is even more damning about this entire interview that Mark Cerny had about the PlayStation 5 Pro is that he basically told these ponies to their faces that they are beta testers. You don't believe me? Listen.
Rather than the how a little bit. With PS4 Pro, it was very much like we're going to target 4K displays. Here it seems much more like you're achieving an enormous improvement in the power level of that console. But did you have a certain kind of game experience in mind to deliver to players when you were designing this console? Or was it like, we're going to achieve big power improvements and then the developers are going to show players what that looks like?
It's a mid-generation release, so really the target is better graphics, and it felt like the big three were the right things to go after. Larger GPU, more advanced ray tracing, and the ML.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, not that complex.
Yeah, it's not that complex, but I think what we've seen so far, one really compelling thing, I think, is getting those fidelity modes, those 30 FPS modes, basically at 60 FPS with comparable image quality, very comparable looking visuals overall. So that is for sure something that is sticking out in this early batch as well as ray tracing enhancements like we're seeing in the Insomniac titles.
I mean, also personally speaking, it's been just great digging into the ML aspects of this and gaining some knowledge there. because we know that's the future we're heading into. And so what an opportunity to gain all of that knowledge with the Pro, rather than waiting for the start of a true generation and having to get everything right with no experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So there you have it from the horse's mouth himself. Mark Cerny is saying that any pony that bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, they are beta testers. They are not getting a fleshed out, program with the PSSR or whatever implementation of new tech that Sony is putting there in the PlayStation 5 Pro. They're not getting full. They are glorified beta testers. That's not my words. That's his words. But he goes on to say that guess what? The PlayStation 5 Pro was always designed to be held back by the PlayStation 5. That's not me going to say that. That's what Mark Cerny is saying. Listen.
If we're making a new generation of console, of course we want the latest and greatest. But with a mid-generation release like PS5 Pro, we also have to consider that a single game package needs to support both PS5 and PS5 Pro. That limited the degree to which we could adopt RDNA 3 technologies. For example, games have something called shader programs that execute on the GPU. A game might have over 100,000 of them. If we adopted RDNA 3 technologies to the extent that code compiled to run on PS5 Pro wouldn't run on PS5, that would mean creating two versions of each executable piece of code. One for PS5, another for PS5 Pro. That's a massive complication. The game package needs to be patched to include that second version, and then the game needs to either selectively load just the appropriate version, or find room for both versions in system memory. It's a big burden for the developers.
So there you have it again. Mark Cerny is saying that here, the PlayStation 5 Pro don't have RDNA 3, and this is what the PlayStation community believed that was in the PlayStation 5 Pro. How sad, how disappointed these ponies must be feeling at this point in time. But there's more disappointment to come for these ponies and jabronis, so you know what? Let's get it!
This is a sickness!
Let's get it! So before we continue the video, guys, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Of course, you get the best Xbox content this side of YouTube. We give you Xbox news, we give you some Nintendo news every now and again, and we give you that salt, that pure Himalayan salt from the PlayStation community. So don't forget, hit that like or subscribe button today. Now let's get back to the video. First up, let's talk about Game of the Year. Not Jeff Keighley Game of the Year, but IGN's Game of the Year. You see, IGN would have given Indiana Jones Game of the Year. Yes, one of Xbox games got Game of the Year from IGN. We don't normally agree with IGN, but it's very clear that Indiana Jones was too good of a game not to give this game Game of the Year. Wow. They didn't only give IGN didn't only give Indiana Jones Game of the Year, they also gave Metaphor Best RPG of the Year, which is also very, very good. Now, what do you think about Indiana Jones getting Game of the Year? Let me hear your thoughts in the comment sections below. Let's face it, the PlayStation community have no games to play the latter half of this year. When I say nothing, I mean nothing.
Hey, the Christmas right now, nothing, mate!
Even J-Dub, the Pony Emperor, he is saying, where are these games?
Where are all of these games?
That is why the PlayStation community, they were very optimistic. They were hype to know that Sony was going to fully acquire Kadokawa. That is the parent company of From Software and the company that has all the anime IPs. Yes, they were thinking, what would happen if Sony acquire, Kadokawa? Well,
I guess we'll never know. This is #1 champion sound, yes.
Yes, it's been reported that Sony only acquired 10% of Kadokawa. Yes, 10%. Wow. While Microsoft could go in there with a bag and buy the whole company, give them an offer that they can't refuse, Sony is basically saying this.
Reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except a little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing. The reality is,
Yes, Sony has to settle for the majority stakeholder of Kadokawa with a whopping 10% of the stocks. Now, what does that mean for Sony? What does that mean for anime? What does that mean for exclusive content for gaming? Let's listen and see what all of this means. Listen.
Sony to become largest shareholder in From Software parent company Kadokawa. The company behind Elden Ring has strengthened its relationship with Sony. PlayStation maker Sony is set to become the largest shareholder in From Software parent company Kadokawa Corporation. It was previously reported that Sony was in talks to purchase Kadokawa, which confirmed it received an acquisition offer from an undisclosed party in November. Now, as noted in a press release, Sony has signed a strategic capital and business alliance agreement with Kadokawa that will see it acquire 12,054,110 new shares in the company for approximately 50 billion yen, $318.5 million. Sony will hold 10% of Kadokawa's shares following the deal. That total includes the shares Sony purchased in 2021. Sony also owns a 14.09% stake in From Software. Both companies said the move will maximize IP value globally and facilitate wider and deeper collaboration, including potential joint investments in the content field. In the future, the two companies plan to discuss specific initiatives for collaboration, such as initiatives to adapt Kadokawa's IP into live-action films and TV dramas globally, co-produce anime works, expand global distribution of Kadokawa's anime works through the Sony Group, further expand publishing of Kadokawa's games, and develop human resources to promote and expand virtual production, adds the press release. Back in November, Kadokawa outlined plans to expand its console and PC game publishing business, and said it was developing a structure to bolster its efforts in that arena. The company noted that Elden Ring continues to drive high growth within its gaming business. The title has sold over 25 million copies worldwide since launching in 2022 and has received additional content in the form of the sprawling Shadow of the Erdtree expansion. From Software recently announced a multiplayer Elden Ring spin-off called Elden Ring Nightrain at the Game Awards 2024. Discussing its future in the wake of the Sony deal, Kadokawa CEO Takeshi Natsuno said the company hopes to bring its franchises to more users around the world. We are confident that this will greatly contribute to maximizing the value of our IP and increasing our corporate value in the mid to long term, he added. We intend to do our utmost to ensure that our collaborative efforts with Sony produce great results in the global market.
So here we have Kadokawa, who wanted Sony to outright come and just buy them. Now, because Sony had to, put down an offer on the table, it appears that that offer was lacking. So the only thing Kadokawa could have done for Sony is said, here what, hold 10%. For that money that you're offering, we can give you 10%, which will be the majority stakeholder of the company. And guess what? Sony took it. Now, what does that mean for anime and gaming? Well, we would see some exclusive content coming to Sony, and we would see that Sony is using their publishing team to push some of Kadokawa games. But it's looking like Kadokawa is the company that came out best in this deal, because they have all Sony resources and all they had to do was give Sony 10%. Wow. So while these ponies are out here crying and groaning because, number one, they didn't acquire Kadokawa fully. Number two, Indiana Jones have gotten Game of the Year. And number three, they basically are beta testers for the PlayStation 6. They basically got robbed with the PlayStation 5 Pro, as we just would have seen Mark Cerny said in that video. So yes, these ponies are crying. Yes, these guys are down bad. Well, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you later.